make it very clear, 'cause I don't want to write another love song of the year.
Too late for sitting in a balance, no more middle line. Who's watching over me every step I take? Angels watching over me. Angels singing story tells me inside my head. Beautiful music, I want you back in my life again. I don't wanna be another way. I want you back in my life again. Compassionate man, so kind, but the bottom line will be what it will be.
She says, don't worry, baby, everything will turn out alright. Don't worry, baby. He knows the me nobody knows. Praise the Lord, He can work through those who praise Him. Praise the Lord. All things are possible with you by my side. Safe inside your love, and there's nothing I can't face. God bless the children everywhere, for they haven't yet learned not to care. Sail on when the water gets high. Sail on when the wind starts to die. Sail on. It's just a matter of minutes till His ship comes to get us, and we'll all get in it.
I selected one sentence for the introduction because the rest of the time we'll spend together today, you'll be getting acquainted with him. In October of 1985, in the Billboard newspaper, there was an article about our guest. And this was one sentence. Chris Christian was the first artist to come out of contemporary Christian music to both write and perform mainstream top 40 hits. This is the person who was there at the beginning and a part of what we now know as contemporary Christian music. Please welcome Chris Christian. Chris, come on up. But we'll come back to the piano in just a minute. So if we can...
This is a real short video of some of my days growing up. This was the early days, very early. These are my grandparents, which I wrote the book about, W.R. and Mamie Christian Smith. And this is where he taught Church of Christ. That was me. On Saturdays, he'd take me up and I could lead singing like I saw them on Sunday. And that was the first time I was on a platform, I guess. But I also had to serve communion because we have to have communion every Sunday. And then now you're thinking I'm robbing her purse, but I'm really not. I was looking for money so I could give the donation when the plate came around. So that's what I was doing. But it looks like I'm kind of... And I would catch the bus by myself when I was 4 and drive the bus over to grandmother's house. I don't think we would do that today. And that's right down College Drive. You've probably seen that house. Now, my granddad gave me some real problems. He gave me some mental problems. And he also taught me I was Superman. I could stop anything, even a flying cow. Boom! Don't. But I love playing instruments. From the day I was born, I was always playing instruments. And they always gave me music. And I still did the normal stuff like a fire truck. But watch this. I fell down. My granddad does not pick me up. He goes, get up. That comes in important later in life. Then I went to Crockett Elementary. Mrs. Patterson in that class, the 4th grade, had a song named Dal Patterson with the record on KRBC radio. And when I heard Dal come to my class and sing his song I heard on the radio, I said, that's what I want to do. So from the 4th grade, I bought a ukulele, started writing songs with William Lamar, who still lives here in Dallas. And then I fast forwarded from Crockett Elementary to Chris and Lee. If you've been here a long time, you may remember that group. That's my good buddy Bob Hunter sitting out here. And then when the association came by, I was always meeting the carpenters in association. I wanted to get to know the people that were doing what I wanted to do, which was just innately. I just knew if I was going to do that, I needed to be close to if I want to be a banker, I wanted to know Scott Deeser. You know, you did get. And then, of course, 10 years later, we had a song, both songs are on the same chart with the Carpenters, so that was fun. 10 years later.
We really start with a song, before we leave Abilene, with a song that you wrote while you were still in high school.
Yeah, I was a junior at Abilene High, and I just, you know, most of the guys, the cool guys would go around Mac Epelin's and drink beer and have pink cookies and like look for a pretty girl or something, and I wasn't that smart. I just kind of got my pink cookie and I went home and practiced piano and guitar and studied a little bit. But I wrote a song in my junior year called Love Song of the Year. And then a guy named Sean Nielsen, who changed his name to Cheryl Nielsen later when he started singing background for Elvis Presley. So he knew my song, Love Song of the Year, that I wrote in Abilene High. And so Sean Nielsen calls me on one Saturday and said, hey, Sean, he said, hey, dude, you're not going to believe this. I said, what? He said, I was with Elvis last night at Graceland, and I played him your song, Love Song of the Year, and he started crying, and a tear came down his face, and he said, I got to record that song. And I'm going, I never played the song for Elvis. I didn't even know Elvis. I mean, and he's telling me now the #1 rock star in the world was going to record my first song I had recorded. You know, Elvis, when he did record the song, I was working for Wayne, and he called, had Red West, his Memphis Mafia guy, call and say, Elvis wants to meet you. Would you come into the opening of the Hilton? Elvis walked over to me about 10 minutes later and stuck out his hand and went, hello, Chris, I'm Elvis Presley. Now, I'm at his opening of the Hilton. He's invited me to come. And I knew who he was, but it was just, I found out later, he never assumed that somebody should know who he was. It was Southern manners. And he always wanted to introduce himself. So then he clapped his hands like that, and he told all these movie stars and governors to be quiet. This is Chris Christian. He wrote this song that I just recorded, and he's never heard it, and I just have this one acetate of the song. I'd love to play it for all of you, and Chris hadn't heard it, so you will both hear it for the first time. So Elvis walks over, puts the needle on the acetate, plays the whole song, 3 minutes and 20 seconds long. And he sits down, he puts his arm around me, and he leaned over and he whispered in my ear. He said, what did you think about what I did with your song? What I didn't realize until I've had 1,000 songs recorded since, not one person has ever come up and asked me, what did you think about what I did with your song, except Elvis Presley?
Play a little of that.
'Cause I don't want to write another love song of the year.
Good. It was the time when a song you wrote for the Carpenters and a song you wrote and recorded for yourself were both on the top 20 at the same time.
Mm-hmm. The story on the Carpenters, they performed in Moody Coliseum here. He was a nice guy, and I guess he thought I was a nice guy, so then he invites Richard and Karen over. Hey, I wanted to meet this guy. Would you mind if you gave me your address so I could send you some songs? And there's all the Carpenter signatures, all the band members, and Richard and Karen Carpenter. And then on the bottom of it, it had their address, where to send tapes. And then, of course, 10 years later, almost to the day, we both had a song on the top 40. Want you back in my life again. Let's go back to the place where it's all began. If you didn't hear those misses, you don't have a musical ear.
I thought it sounded perfect.
Okay, sorry.
So,
Growing up in the Church of Christ, trying to believe that you need to follow the Word of God in the New Testament exactly like it says. If it didn't, as Pat Boone and I've been discussing, if it didn't say make melody in your heart and be sure to bring your guitar, then we're not supposed to do that. So we didn't. And we couldn't, it was the Old Testament where the instruments were, but that was more a reference guide, really.
B.J. Thomas really preceded Amy Grant in this story.
Right. Walking Away with You was on her Never Alone album. That was that's really when we started doing more pop, real pop. I mean, the first single, Beautiful Music, went top 10, but then My Father's Eyes was very soft, but not real pop. And once we got into Never Alone, losing my sense of direction, and I'm needing some sense of protection. Walking away with you, I go walking away with you, and when that was on the Never Alone album.
I think it was performed in the movie Dakota.
Yeah, I did it in Dakota.
And then you wrote the whole soundtrack.
Right. That was with Lou Diamond Phillips. He was the star of that, yeah. The theme for that Dakota was a top 10 record, too.
Yeah.
That's the opening theme of Dakota.
Right, yeah. The theme. Well, but what happened with your first piano teacher?
Oh, well, back then you smoked cigarettes in the house. So that was a very common thing. And so he would put his arm around me at the end and just blow these billows of smoke. That was the first mistake he made. The second one, he said, okay, now next week, Chris, you need to learn this song. Or whatever the song was. Well, the second he walked out the room, I could play it. And once I heard it, I knew it. And so I went to my dad and I said, number one, I can't take the smoke anymore. This is like killing me. And number two, you're wasting your money because the second I hear it, I know how to play it. That's another big mission of the whole book and this tour is to encourage grandparents to spend time with your grandkids. Yeah. And not just come over for an hour and play with them, but pray for them.
You honored your background and your hometown, and thank you for doing that.
And I hope I can just encourage, grandparents that have grandkids in the area to really spend time with them. And as we're talking to some other people, trying to see if we can do a surrogate, hooking people to have extra time to put time and effort in young grandkids' life that don't have grandparents present. Because as Bill Gaither says, he said, it's just too hard to go it alone. Grandparents, your work is not yet done.